The summer heat had been relentless, but nothing prepared Eleanor Brennan for what she was about to hear. She'd been checking her trapline near Copper Ridge, the cicadas singing their endless song, when the screaming started. Not animal screaming, human screaming, mixed with snarling that made her blood run cold. Eleanor ran, rifle clutched tight, boots pounding the dusty earth. What she found made her freeze for just a heartbeat. 5 wolves, circling, their grey coats matted with dust and hunger. In the center, a cowboy lay bleeding, his horse dead beside him, steam rising from the carcass in the brutal summer sun. She fired twice. The shots echoed across the canyon. The pack scattered, but their yellow eyes watched from the scrub brush, patient, calculating. They weren't leaving. The cowboy was maybe 30 years old, his leg torn open, arterial blood pumping into the red dirt. His face was pale as death. "Leave me," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. Not worth it." Eleanor ignored him. She'd seen wounds like this before. He had minutes, maybe. She ripped off her cotton neckerchief, wound it tight around his thigh, pulled until he screamed, and then went silent. "Stay with me," she commanded, her voice harder than she felt inside. Dragging him was like hauling a dead elk. But Eleanor had been alone on this land for 3 years, since consumption took her husband Matthew. She knew how to survive. She knew how to fight. The wolves followed, 50 yards back, watching, waiting. She loaded him onto her travois, his blood soaking through her dress. Among his scattered belongings, she saw something that made her throat tighten. A gold wedding band, and a child's drawing of stick figures holding hands. He's running from something, just like I am. And then she saw the wanted poster. Eleanor's cabin appeared through the wavering heat, a small sanctuary of rough-hewn logs and faded curtains. She dragged the stranger inside, bolted the door, and finally let herself breathe. Through the window, those wolf eyes still watched, glowing in the darkness, waiting. For 4 days, the cowboy burned with fever. Eleanor changed his blood-soaked bandages, spooned broth between cracked lips, and listened to him confess everything to ghosts she couldn't see. "Rose," he mumbled in his delirium. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Rose. And little William, God forgive me. I wasn't there when you needed me." She learned his name was Wade Hartley, that his wife and son had died 18 months ago, diphtheria, while he'd been 200 miles away on a cattle drive, that guilt had been eating him alive ever since. Eleanor understood that kind of guilt, the kind that whispered you could have done something, should have done something, if only you'd been there. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. On the 5th morning, Wade's fever finally broke. He opened his eyes, clear for the first time, and found Eleanor asleep in the chair beside him. Her auburn hair had escaped its braid, her face grey with exhaustion. "You should have left me to die," he said when she stirred awake. "Maybe." Eleanor stood, poured water from the pitcher. "But I didn't." Their eyes met. A long look passed between them, recognition of something shared, something broken in both of them. A sharp knock shattered the moment. Eleanor's face went tight. "Stay quiet," she whispered. She opened the door to find Marcus Dawson standing there, his smile cold as a snake's. Dawson was Silver Creek's most successful rancher, and its most dangerous man. His eyes slid past Eleanor, fixing on Wade lying in the bed. "Mrs. Brennan," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "Heard you had company. Thought I'd check on your welfare." "Just an injured traveler," Eleanor said, her voice steady. "Christian duty, Mr. Dawson." Christian duty. His smile widened. "That's one way to describe it. A young widow, alone out here, with a strange man for days now. People are starting to talk, Eleanor." The way he said her name made her skin crawl. "Let them talk. You should be more careful about your reputation." Dawson tipped his hat, but his eyes held a threat. "Especially with a man like that." I'll be sure to let folks in town know about your charity work." After he left, Eleanor stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. She still wore Matthew's wedding ring on a chain around her neck. Another ghost, another weight she carried. "Storm's coming," she said, though the summer sky outside was cloudless and blue. Wade heard the lie, heard the hope beneath it. "I'll leave as soon as I can walk." "You'll leave when you're strong enough not to die 5 miles from here," Eleanor shot back. "I didn't save your life just to have you waste it being noble." Something almost like a smile touched Wade's lips. "Yes, ma'am." That night, Eleanor lay awake, listening to Wade's breathing from across the room, listening to the wolves howling in the distance, listening to her own heart, which had been silent for so long, beginning to beat again, and that terrified her more than anything. Weeks passed. Wade could walk now, limping but standing. He should have left. They both knew it, but neither of them said the words. Instead, Wade fixed things. The sagging porch steps, the barn door that wouldn't close right, the fence posts the winter had knocked loose. Eleanor watched him work in the summer heat, sweat darkening his shirt, and felt something dangerous growing in her chest. She taught him her land in return, which creek ran cold even in August, where the wild berries grew thick, how to calm her nervous mare Bess with a gentle hand and softer voice. They worked side by side, hands brushing when they passed tools, shared laughter when a chicken escaped into the house and wouldn't come out. Comfortable silences that felt more intimate than words. He carved something into a new fence post, decorative wildflowers, her initials hidden in the design, left it as a surprise. When Eleanor found it, she traced the letters with her fingertips and couldn't stop the tears. Sunday morning arrived. Eleanor prepared to ride to church alone, like always. Wade watched her from the porch. "I could come with you," he offered quietly. "That would make things worse." She adjusted her bonnet. "Town's already talking." She returned 3 hours later, jaw tight, eyes blazing. "They turned their backs during hymns," she said, voice shaking. "Preacher's sermon was about Jezebel and loose women. I walked out." Wade had tried to cook dinner. The biscuits were burnt, the stew over-salted. They looked at each other and started laughing. Real laughter, the kind neither had felt in years. "Town thinks I'm Jezebel," Eleanor said, smile fading. Wade caught her hand. Town's never seen real courage on a woman before. The air between them changed, charged. He leaned closer. She didn't pull back, and the wolves started howling outside. Close, too close. He grabbed his rifle. Through the window, fresh tracks circled the cabin, closer than they'd ever been. The pack had found him again. "They're back," he said, "and they're hungry." Eleanor loaded her rifle too. They stood watch together until dawn, backs against the wall, shoulders touching. Neither slept, neither spoke. But something unspoken passed between them in that darkness, something that felt like forever. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Your support means everything. Morning brought Marcus Dawson again, this time with 3 other ranchers, men Eleanor had known for years, now looking at her like she was something shameful. "Mrs. Brennan," Dawson said, sitting uninvited at her kitchen table. "This situation has gone on long enough. A widow living alone with a drifter. It's improper. It's sinful." "What happens under my roof is my business," Eleanor said. "Not when it affects the whole community." Dawson leaned forward. "Marry me, Eleanor. Make this right, or send him away. Those are your choices." Wade's hand tightened on his rifle. "The lady's already given you her answer." Dawson's eyes went cold. "I wasn't talking to you, drifter. Maybe folks should know more about who Eleanor's been harboring. That wanted poster I saw in your saddlebag, for instance." Eleanor's blood froze. "Murder," Dawson continued, watching her face. "That's what it said, didn't it? Wade Hartley, wanted for murder in Wyoming territory, $500 reward." The room went silent. Wade's face had gone pale. "I can make this go away," Dawson said softly. "Or I can wire the marshal tomorrow. Your choice, Eleanor." Outside, the wolves howled again, but the real predator was sitting at her table, smiling, and left. Eleanor stood at the window. She should have been afraid, should have been angry. Instead, she just waited. "It's true," Wade finally said. "The wanted poster, but not the whole truth." "Then tell me the whole truth." So he did. A ranch foreman in Wyoming, beating a 10-year-old Mexican boy nearly to death for spilling grain. Wade had intervened. The foreman pulled a gun. Wade shot first. Shoulder wound. The man lived. "But his father was a territorial judge," Wade said. "I ran rather than face a trial I couldn't win. The boy lived, but I became a wanted man. I've been running ever since." Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. "The boy," she said finally. "You saved him?" "Yes." "Then you did right." She turned to face him. "But you should have told me." "I know." Wade's voice broke. "I was afraid. Afraid you'd send me away. Afraid I'd ruin the only good thing I've found since Rose and William died. You should have trusted me." "I do trust you. That's why I'm still here." Eleanor crossed the room, stood close enough to touch him. "Then trust me with this. We face Dawson together. We face the town together. No more secrets, no more running." "Eleanor, they could arrest me. You could lose everything." "I already lost everything once," she said quietly. "When Matthew died, I learned that safety isn't worth having if you're living half a life. I'm done being safe, Wade. I'm done being alone." He pulled her into his arms then, held her like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. "I'm falling in love with you," he whispered against her hair. "I know," she said. "I'm terrified too." But the next morning, Sheriff Garrett arrived, and he had more than questions. Garrett unrolled the wanted poster on Eleanor's table. His face was grim, but not unkind. "Need you to come to town, Hartley. Answer some questions." "He's not going anywhere until you hear the truth," Eleanor said. The sheriff sighed. "Ma'am, with all respect, that's not your decision." "Then make it yours. Give him a chance to explain before you drag him in like a criminal." So, Wade told the story again. The beaten child, the crooked foreman, the judge's son who couldn't be touched by justice. When he finished, Sheriff Garrett was quiet. "That's quite a tale," he said finally, "but I still need to verify it. There'll be a town meeting tonight. Marcus Dawson's called for it. Says the community has a right to know who's living among them." Eleanor's stomach dropped. A town meeting meant a trial. Not in a courtroom, but something worse. Trial by gossip and fear. That night, the church was packed. Eleanor stood at the front while voices rose around her. Accusations flew like stones. "Harboring a killer! Shameful behavior! That woman's a disgrace." Marcus Dawson stood in the front row, arms crossed, looking satisfied. Preacher Morrison raised his hands for quiet. "Mrs. Brennan, you've heard the charges against your guest. What do you say?" Eleanor looked at the faces she'd known for years, her neighbors, her community, people she'd helped during hard times, and they were looking at her like she was something dirty. "I say," she began, voice steady despite her shaking hands, "that if protecting a child is a crime, then I'll stand with criminals. If showing mercy makes me shameful, then shame me. But I won't apologize for doing what's right." She turned and walked out. Into the hot summer night. Into the jeers and whispers. Wade was gone when she got home. Empty. Quiet. Too quiet. On the table, a note in Wade's rough handwriting. "You deserve a life, not a legend. Don't follow. You've already saved me once. Let that be enough. W." Eleanor read it twice, then crumpled it in her fist. "You stubborn, noble idiot," she whispered to the empty room. She saw the fence post through the window, the one he'd carved, her initials woven with wildflowers. He'd been planning to leave even then. but he'd left her something permanent, something that said, "I was here, I mattered." She ran her fingers over the carved wood, felt the love in every careful cut. No, not like this. Eleanor moved fast, saddled Bess, loaded her rifle, grabbed supplies. She wasn't losing him, not to pride, not to fear, not to his damn noble sacrifice. A rider approached, Deputy Hayes. He held a telegram. "Mrs. Brennan," he said, looking uncomfortable. "This just came from Wyoming. Thought you should know." She ripped it open, read it twice, then laughed, a sound caught between relief and fury. "Charges dropped 4 months ago. Foreman recovered. Boy testified. Judge's son confessed to lying. No active warrant. Wade was free, had been free, and he didn't even know." "Which way did he go?" she demanded. Hayes pointed north, toward Copper Ridge. "But ma'am, there's been wolf sightings up there, a whole pack. They're tracking something." "I know," Eleanor said, swinging into her saddle. "They're tracking him. They've been tracking him since the day I found him." She spurred Bess forward. Behind her, Deputy Hayes called out, but she was already gone, racing against time, against wolves, against Wade's death wish. "Hold on, you fool. I'm coming." Tracked Wade through the scrubland, following hoofprints in the dusty earth. He was heading back to where it started, the place the wolves had first found him, completing a circle or ending one. She found him at dusk, sitting beneath a twisted pine near the spot where his horse had died that day months ago. You could still see the dark stain in the dirt. She didn't speak, just dismounted, sat beside him. Let the silence hold everything that words couldn't. Finally, Wade spoke. "You shouldn't have come." "No, you shouldn't have left. The whole town will destroy you for me, Eleanor. Your reputation, your land, everything. The town doesn't decide my life." She pulled the wedding ring from her pocket, his ring, the one from his saddlebag. "We bury this together, start new." Wade's voice cracked. "I can't drag you into my wreckage." "Too late. I'm already here." Eleanor turned to face him. "Love isn't running away when things get hard, Wade. That's just fear dressed up as noble. I followed you because you're worth fighting for, because we're worth fighting for." He broke then, pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. "I'm so afraid of losing you." "Then stop trying to lose me first." They sat together as the sun set, the summer heat finally breaking, a cool breeze promising the evening to come. Eleanor pulled out the telegram. "You're free. The charges were dropped months ago. You've been running from nothing." Wade read it again, his hands shaking. "You're free," Eleanor repeated. Before he could respond, a howl split the air, close, multiple directions. They stood, back to back, rifle and knife ready. Yellow eyes appeared in the gathering darkness. 6 sets, circling. "They remember me," Wade said grimly. The Alpha charged. Alpha moved like lightning. Eleanor fired, missed. The wolf was too fast, too determined. Wade threw himself between Eleanor and snapping jaws, took the bite on his shoulder, the same shoulder as before. He screamed, drove his knife into the wolf's ribs. The Alpha retreated, bleeding but alive. The pack circled tighter. Eleanor fired again. A second wolf dropped, but there were still 4 more. Wade grabbed a dead branch, wrapped his shirt around it, struck matches with shaking hands. Fire bloomed. The wolves hesitated. Fire was their ancient enemy, but hunger drove them forward. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an ending like this. Comment below where you're watching from. We love our viewers. The Alpha charged again, this time at Eleanor. She stood her ground, rifle jammed. The wolf was 10 feet away, then 5. Wade's torch caught it across the face. It yelped, stumbled. Eleanor dove for her knife, came up fast, drove the blade home. The Alpha fell. The pack broke, vanished into darkness like smoke. Wade collapsed beside the dead wolf, blood soaking his shoulder. Eleanor tore his shirt into bandages, hands steady despite her racing heart. "I can't lose you," he gasped. "Not after finding you." "Then stop trying to leave." She wrapped the wound tight. "No more running, promise me." He caught her hand, held it against his chest, against his racing heart. "Marry me," he said. "Not because of the town, not despite them, because I choose you, because I'm done running." "Yes," Eleanor's voice broke. "On one condition. We face everything together. No more noble sacrifices." "Deal." Dawn broke through the remaining darkness. Summer sunrise revealing the world waking up, coming alive. They had survived the wolves, but could they survive the town? Double back toward Silver Creek. Not hiding, not sneaking, together. The town was waiting. Eleanor saw them gathered in the church square. Marcus Dawson stood at the front, arms crossed, expecting victory. But Sheriff Garrett stepped forward first, held up the telegram. "Charges dropped," he announced to the crowd. "Wade Hartley is not a wanted man, never really was. He defended a child, and he's paid enough for doing the right thing." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Preacher Morrison stepped forward next, hat in his hands. "Mrs. Brennan, Mr. Hartley, I owe you both an apology. We all do. You showed us what real courage looks like, and we responded with fear and judgment. That's on us." Not everyone agreed. Some folks turned away, but others, slowly, started nodding. Marcus Dawson's face went red. "This is ridiculous. They've been living in sin." "We're getting married," Wade interrupted. "Today, if the preacher will have us." Eleanor looked at him. "Today? Why wait?" Wade smiled. "I'm done wasting time, done running, done being afraid. You!" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Today sounds perfect." The wedding was small. Sheriff Garrett stood witness. A few brave neighbors attended. The churchwomen who turned their backs, they stayed away. But it didn't matter. Wade slipped a simple gold band on Eleanor's finger. She did the same for him. "I promise," he said, "to stay, to fight, to build a life with you worth living." "I promise," Eleanor said, "to remind you of that every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." They kissed. The small crowd cheered. Marcus Dawson left town the next week. Some said he went to California. Nobody missed him. And Eleanor finally took off Matthew's ring from around her neck. Later. Late summer fading into early fall. The cabin rang with hammer strikes. Wade was building a crib. Eleanor, 3 months pregnant, tended the garden where wolves once prowled. Tomatoes heavy on the vine, squash growing fat and yellow, life blooming where death had hunted. They'd taken in Jenny, Sheriff Garrett's orphaned niece, a girl of 9 who needed family as much as they needed her. Eleanor taught her reading. Wade taught her carpentry. Family reconstructed from choice, from love, from second chances. Last month, Wade had pulled a child from the flooding creek during a storm. After that, the town's opinions shifted completely. Fathers who'd shunned them now tipped their hats. Mothers who'd gossiped now brought preserves and bread. Redemption came slowly, but it came. If you loved this story of second chances and true love, hit that like, share this video, and subscribe for more incredible tales. Comment below where you're watching from. We read every single one. Evening settled. Eleanor and Wade sat on their porch, watching sunset paint the land gold and red. Distant wolf howls reminded them danger still lived in the world. But so did they. So did love. So did hope. Wade's hand rested on Eleanor's belly. She leaned against him, breathing in sawdust and safety. "Will the baby be brave like you?" Jenny asked, appearing in the doorway. "Brave isn't not being afraid," Eleanor said. "It's loving people anyway. It's staying when running would be easier." In the garden, wildflowers bloomed where they'd buried their old wedding rings. Blue columbine, Indian paintbrush, wild roses. Wade had carved a small wooden marker, Summer 1830, where love began. "Summer always ends," Eleanor said, watching fireflies rise. Wade kissed her temple. But love stays, if you're brave enough to let it. The lamp glowed in their window, welcoming them home.